Today is Thursday, January 8th. What happened when an ICE agent shot an American citizen in Minneapolis and how it sparked outcry across the country. Also, the Trump administration's new plan for Venezuelan oil. And we'll get into the government's newest dietary guidelines that call for eating more foods that previous guidelines have said to limit. Plus, new research on why many top performers in their industries were actually late bloomers. The latest up-and-coming technology on display, from smart ovens to Bitcoin mining water heaters. And the Girl Scout cookie season kicks off with a brand new flavor. Welcome to The Newsworthy, all the day's news in less than 15 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. Let's do this. Large crowds have been protesting and mourning the death of a Minnesota woman who was shot and killed by an ICE agent. Well, this happened within the first week of what's been called the largest immigration operation to date in a neighborhood just south of downtown Minneapolis. And now Minnesota officials are telling ICE to get out of their state, while federal officials insist they're not going anywhere. They both have different versions of exactly what happened. The Homeland Security Department says the ICE agent opened fire in self-defense, saying the woman tried to run over law enforcement officers with her car. But Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry says he saw the video too, and their take is, as he put it, BS. Different angles of the video are available to watch for yourself and have been shown in media reports. But again, there are different takes on what you can see. For example, was an officer in front of the vehicle when she drives off or just to the side? Some witnesses even say an officer actually stepped in front of her car as she was driving away to fire his gun at her. At this point, it's not clear what any of them said to each other just before this happened. After the shooting, people gathered in the street chanting and throwing snowballs in the direction of ICE agents. In response, they deployed pepper spray and tear gas. Then last night, more people turned out for a vigil to remember the woman. Renee Nicole Good was a writer, poet, and mother of a 6-year-old child. Others were there to demand the federal agent who opened fire be arrested for murder. They also called for ICE to be removed. But Vice President J.D. Vance called the woman's death a tragedy of her own making and told every ICE officer that they have the full support of the White House. The shooting is now under investigation, including by the FBI. The U.S. seized 2 more oil tankers linked to Venezuela. The American military forcibly boarded one ship that was being escorted by the Russian Navy, and they confiscated another near the Caribbean Sea that was loaded with Venezuelan crude. That means there are now 4 vessels in U.S. custody, and the Justice Department says it's still monitoring several more for similar action. The Trump administration says they're part of a shadow fleet of tankers that's carrying sanctioned oil shipments around the globe. Of course, this comes as President Trump has promised to take control of the entire Venezuelan oil industry, promises that have escalated a lot more since the U.S. captured the country's leader, Nicolas Maduro. Secretary of State Marco Rubio held classified briefings yesterday with the full House and Senate, where he laid out a 3-step plan for the country's future. He said step 1 is stability, followed by recovery, and then transition. As Rubio explained it, step 1 will involve quarantine for Venezuela. That includes selling sanctioned oil and distributing the profits. Then he says in the recovery phase, access to the Venezuelan oil market will be restored in a way that's fair, while the U.S. will also be focused on freeing political prisoners, letting exiled opponents come home, and rebuilding civil society. And finally, there's the transition phase, in which the U.S. can stop being quite so hands-on. Well, some lawmakers now have reservations. One Democratic senator said it amounted to stealing Venezuelan oil as leverage to micromanage the country. And one Republican senator said the U.S. should show that it has altruistic or more supportive goals, not just a desire to grab oil resources. Though other Republicans say they're happy to hear about the overall approach and say they trust the White House to take it from here. It was just days ago that President Trump called Colombia's leader a sick man and threatened military action if his country didn't do something about illegal drugs coming into the U.S. And then yesterday, Trump had a friendly conversation with him. Trump said it was a great honor to talk on the phone with Colombian President Gustavo Petro about drugs and other issues. Petro wrote on social media how he believes the U.S. can partner with Latin America on energy, but that the U.S. should not use the region exclusively for oil. The 2 leaders also agreed to meet face-to-face in the White House, and that meeting is reportedly being set up now. The U.S. has left dozens more international groups this week. As one report put it, it's among the biggest and most extreme steps the Trump administration has taken to retreat from the global stage and pull back foreign spending. In all, the U.S. left 66 organizations, agencies, and commissions. The targets are mostly affiliated with the United Nations, focused on climate, labor, and more. One is a UN body that promotes gender equality and women's empowerment. Another is the UN Population Fund that focuses on family planning as well as maternal and child health in more than 150 countries. And then there's what's known as the UN's Bedrock Climate Treaty, making the U.S. the first country to back out. The White House explained by saying they, quote, operate contrary to the U.S. national interests, though it didn't get into the issues with each one individually. But in the past, President Trump has questioned the effectiveness, cost, and accountability of international bodies. Since the start of his second term a year ago, Trump has already stopped engaging with the UN Human Rights Council, quit the UN Cultural Agency, UNESCO, and announced plans to quit the World Health Organization, among others. The U.S. has some new dietary guidelines, and they mark a major shift from decades of advice. One of the biggest changes, Americans are now being encouraged to eat more fat after years of being told to limit it. The new guidelines also put a stronger emphasis on meat and dairy, moving away from the previous focus on plant-based proteins. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the priority is eating whole, nutrient-dense foods. Some advice will sound familiar, though. They still urge people to eat plenty of fruits and vegetables and strongly recommend limiting ultra-processed foods and added sugars. Reactions from health experts have been mixed. The American Medical Association applauded the new guidelines, saying they affirm that food is medicine. But the American Heart Association brought up some concerns that people could overeat red meat or sodium, especially since the new guidelines specifically said proteins can be flavored with salt, spices, and herbs. Dietary guidelines are important since they shape what's in school lunches, military meals, and federal food assistance programs. The White House says they'll be phased in over the next 2 years. More news is still ahead, but first, a break to talk about our sponsor. Especially when I work from home, I don't like wearing jeans every day because they're not as comfortable as leggings, and I stretch them out just sitting at my computer. Yet, I get tired of wearing leggings or workout clothes every day. I'm glad to say the Skims fold-over pant is a great alternative. I can wear them with the matching tank, and I feel put together, and yet I'm super comfortable, whether I'm lounging, working remotely, or running an errand. I also love the Skims slip dresses for a comfortable yet sleek option to throw on and go, and I have several Skims tees, both short sleeve and long sleeve, some of my go-to basics that pair with everything and both feel and look great on. Of course, everything I get from Skims is always super soft and high quality. I'm always impressed by the material, and this is true of all their intimates as well. Soft, comfortable, and functional. Shop my favorite loungewear, pajamas, bras, underwear, t-shirts, and more at skims.com. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you, select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select our show, The Newsworthy, in the drop-down menu that follows. Okay, now back to the news. Once again, Warner Brothers Discovery has rejected Paramount Skydance. And for now, the media company says it's sticking with the deal to sell its streaming service, studio, and HBO cable channel to Netflix. Remember, Netflix won the bidding war for Warner Brothers last month with an $82.7 billion offer. But then Paramount Skydance revised its bid, offering $108.4 billion. Well, the Warner Brothers board reviewed it, but still said there are too many risks and uncertainties with Paramount Skydance as compared to Netflix. It pointed out how Paramount's financing plan would saddle the smaller Hollywood studio with billions of dollars in debt, among other things. This is actually the sixth time Warner's board has said no to Paramount in the last few months. Still, Paramount is expected to try again with an even higher bid. Netflix still says it's not worried and that it should be able to finalize the deal in the next year or two. More and more people around the world are turning to ChatGPT for medical purposes. OpenAI says 40 million people a day use its chatbot for health information. For example, people ask it to decode medical bills, appeal insurance denials, self-diagnose, or manage their care. So now OpenAI is adding a dedicated health tab to ChatGPT, specifically for people who want to upload data from medical devices or fitness trackers, or bring in electronic medical records. The information in the Health tab won't be used in other types of chats, and it won't be used to train its models. Granted, it could potentially be available if someone were to subpoena it or issue some other kind of court order. And critics say ChatGPT can give wrong and potentially dangerous advice, especially in conversations around mental health. But OpenAI says ChatGPT can play an important role in helping people navigate a complicated healthcare system, even though it should never replace medical care. OpenAI plans to make the Health tab available to all Apple and web users in the coming weeks. The world's biggest consumer electronics show continues to showcase some unique new inventions for the world to see. We mentioned some yesterday. Now here's just a few more of the latest tech gadgets that made their debut on the showroom floor. For the kitchen, there's a new smart oven that uses a camera and scale to identify exactly what kind of food you want to make and how much, then starts its own program to cook it the right way. There's also a smart stove shutoff that helps older adults live safely at home. It can even report to a caregiver if their loved one didn't show up in the kitchen to make breakfast as usual. Separately, there's a soft plastic compactor that can mash your trash into dense bricks to be recycled into other products. There's a robot that follows the sun to collect energy, then bring you the power when you need it. And there's a water heater that automatically generates Bitcoin. It uses the excess heat generated from Bitcoin mining to heat running water in your home, offsetting electricity and water costs with the earnings from the process. Of course, those are just a few examples. CES 2026 runs through tomorrow. The Girl Scouts officially launched cookie season this week, and of course, it's selling all of the favorites like Thin Mints, Samoas, Tagalongs, and so on. The organization is also adding a new cookie to the lineup this year. It's called Explore More's. It's inspired by Rocky Road ice cream with chocolate, marshmallow, and almond-flavored cream. As always, proceeds from each box sold stay with the local troops and councils, letting Girl Scouts take part in different experiences throughout the year, like service projects and summer camps. The easiest way to buy them is to reach out to a Girl Scout you know, or you can go to the Girl Scout Cookie Finder to find a booth near you. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, this episode is sponsored by Quince. I'm starting the year with a closet review and reorganization. So if you, like me, are looking for at least a little wardrobe refresh, Quince has you covered with everything you need for layering, mixing, and filling any gaps you have in your closet. For me, I just got one of their cashmere sweaters, and it's a staple for sure. I've already worn it so many times. It's super soft. I love the green color I got, and it lays just right. And of course, I packed it in my Quince carry-on bag for a quick trip I just took over the holiday break because I love the luggage from Quince as well, and I'll be using it throughout 2026. Plus, like everything from Quince, each item is made with premium materials in ethical, trusted factories, then priced far below what other luxury brands charge. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Don't wait. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. That's QUINCE.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. So it seems a lot of the highest achieving adults were actually late bloomers, not child prodigies. A new study examined more than 34,000 adults around the world who have excelled in fields like sports, music, academia, and chess. And it found world-class performers like Olympic champions, renowned composers, and Nobel laureates don't often excel early in life. In fact, there was just a 10% overlap between high-performing kids and elite-level adults. As for why that is, well, first, the analysis found most people who achieve great things as children typically focus on only one thing. But people who reach the pinnacle of their field as adults generally try a variety of disciplines in childhood and advance gradually. So some researchers noted that over-specializing at an early age could lead to burnout or overuse injuries, and it's just not sustainable in the long run. They also theorized that pursuing a range of interests increases the chances of finding one you enjoy and are good at. And that being exposed to many different activities as a child can make you a more adaptable learner as an adult. Granted, there were some limitations in the research. For example, certain accomplishments are easier to measure than others, and success can look different from person to person. Plus, some scientists suspect that many high-achieving adults were recognized as unusual when they were children, even if they weren't identified as a prodigy. Either way, researchers say it's a good idea to try a variety of different activities and to encourage kids to do the same without worrying too much about early excellence. Thank you so much for listening today. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.